Welcome to Live Vedanta, a podcast about simple living and high thinking. In chapter 5, verse 17 of the Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna shares the plan for contemplation, forming the seed for chapter 6. By steadily listening to the truth, sincerely reflecting, and contemplating with strength, we can shift from ego to spirit and realize our nature as divinity. Tune in to learn more.
A famous, popular, powerful order in this chapter comes in verse 10. This is not one of our important verses, but I'm taking us on this journey through this chapter. Shri Krishna shares in verse 10, Padma patram iva ambasa. For the one who is training in not being the doer, they are like a lotus upon which there is water. Does that water wet that lotus? It doesn't. A lotus grows in mud. Are lotuses muddy? No. The water, the mud is society. It is how you're living. But for the one who's not the doer, they're like the lotus. World power is not stronger than their willpower. Actions don't bind them. It is easy to keep on using the word doershiplessness. Personally, I have found the way for this to become one's reality is when you are associated with the great. When you are associated with one who is great, this association is real and personal. You don't compare yourself to them, so you don't compete against them. You just want to help them further whatever their greatness is in. Are you all understanding what I'm sharing? In reference to my master, I never feel that I am the doer. I don't compare myself. I don't compete with my master. I feel very fortunate that I get the opportunity to try to further what he is engaged in. We are now taking up verse 17. This verse is very much a plan for how to contemplate, which becomes the theme for chapter 6. Tad buddhayastadaatmanaha tanishtastat parayanaha gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha. Joy. To internalize this verse, if you take the first line, we have to go backwards. Please tune in. This is a lovely verse which teaches us how to contemplate in one line. You'll see the word tat is used 4 times. Verse 17, line 1, tat is used 4 times. The first tat is parayana. It is to make divinity one's highest goal, aspiration, purpose, lifestyle. This, in a more traditional sense, describes Shravana. In a more practical sense, it is to be steady. To be steady. The next step in this sequence, this is all to be practiced sequentially, is you see the word tat again. But now there's a closeness that is being practiced. Tat nishtha. Nishtha means to be established in. This more traditionally relates to manana. Manana. I've shared with all of you, manana helps one to feel the message is real. So you're ready to leap into it more, like a leap of faith. More practically, it is to be sincere. Sincere. For those who are training with me in the highest vocation, this is exactly what we experienced this morning. First you be steady, then you be sincere. Third part of this sequence. The next tat, atmana. Atmana, it is where you feel your sense of I is not the ego, but the atma, or the spirit. This went from purpose to a reality to your reality. More traditionally, from Shravana to Manana to Nididhyasana. Those who are steady develop into sincerity, they developed into strength. Their willpower cannot be pressured by world power. And now I take us to the first tat, buddhaya. Our intellect is the seat of doership. The ego uses the first equipment that's available to it, which is the intellect, and then starts to enact, I am the doer. But here, this ego feels it is that. It is that, or divinity. More traditionally, samadhi. From practicing being the spirit to being the spirit. More practically, it is to be serene. Serene. One has gone beyond conflict, separation. Awesome, yes? Imagine a teacher taking this first line and then developing it into their own system. How much money they could make from this. If you follow and follow through with the first line, gachanti apunaha avritim, where you are going, you will never come back. This jnana, you knowing who you are, nirdhuta kalmashaha, this knowing makes one pure, makes one purer, makes one the purest, makes one beyond purity. Shared in a more simple way, you remember you are divine. And you never forget this. One experiences happiness once and for all. One lives happily ever after, actually. Usually when that's stated, they end the movie, correct? But we don't actually know if they lived happily ever after. But Shri Krishna is verifying that now. Chapter 5, verse 7 begins with Yoga Yukta. The one who has made their vision and lifestyle about yoga. In every experience, trying to be better until one is the best. This verse ends with Nalipyate. They are not limited by what they do. Why? Because they don't feel they are the doer. I had mentioned verses 8 and 9 are lovely expressions of this. In verse 17, The word tat is used repeatedly, and this is the relationship one should have if they are going to be a contemplator. There has to be a single purpose. Moving backwards, the first line teaches, for one to engage in shravana, active listening. This cures the problem we have known as abhavana. Abhavana is an expression of being confused. What is my purpose? Who am I? When one is an active listener, one comes to feel what our map, what our guides are sharing. This is the message. I'm clear that this is the message. Next is manana, or active reflecting. This relates to the problem we have of asambhavana. Asambhavana is this is the message, but it's filled with doubts. I don't think this message is possible for me. When you actively reflect, those doubts get purged. Next, nididhyasana, or active contemplating. For those training in the morning, today I'd mentioned, for one to be steady, to be in a quiet place every day at the same time. This cures us of viparita bhavana. Viparita bhavana means wrong identity. One feels they're the ego, but through contemplation, you change that. The completion of making tat the only reason you were born, which is why you're actively relating to this through listening, reflecting, and contemplating, is bhava. Samadhi is felt as bhava, or being. One is no longer becoming happiness. One is being joy. And that's why this verse ends with apunar avrittim. As soon as one becomes being, they have tuned into the changeless. There will be no more change from there. Summarizing verses 7 and 17 before we move on to 18, trying to make this more practical. Chapter 3 is about dedication. Chapter 4 and 5 amplify this more and more. How do you know if you're living chapter 3, 4, 5? You know this because you are committed. Committed to yoga, committed to active listening, reflecting, contemplating. Commitment has nothing to do with convenience. Meaningful Mornings, I feel, is a cool expression of that. We just don't have periods where there's not meaningful mornings. If there are pauses, it's because we intend for those pauses. For those who live by convenience, please understand that's the antonym to commitment. Anyone who's in a serious relationship, if you're committed, you don't get shaken because matters are inconvenient.
If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course on the Simplecast browser. This whole season of Essential Love is accompanied by an ebook by the same name. You can check out our show notes about how you can download the Essential Love ebook, which includes tools for deeper reflection on each of the verses. They go hand in hand. You can find all of this and more at chinmayaniagara.com. Until next time, inspire, love, be.